Hi, my name is Eileen Bild, and I am with OTEL Chalk. And today I have two beautiful ladies who are contributors for the book Mayhem to Miracle. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Sandra. How are you?
Good.
Great to have
Eileen,
you.
glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. So, Reverend Sandra Kitt, she is an author and a retired major in the United States Army, teacher, counselor, and currently part of the First Unity Ministry team in St. Petersburg, Florida, committed to helping people thrive. I love that. And Teresa is, and let me see, oh, she's up here. She's an author, speaker, publisher, and potter. Committed to making a difference in the lives of others, she uses her gifts to help people get their stories told in books. So welcome, ladies, and thank you for coming on my show. I look forward to sharing your stories and inspiring people because, especially the things that you two have been through, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to the challenges of being able to persevere and really become stronger as a result of the story that you have to tell. So I think I want to start with Sandra, and I'm going to ask you, when I read your story, it just kept going on and on about the miracles and the triumphs that just kept happening and the strength that you had to push through what I think a lot of people would have just given up on. So if you would just share a little bit about what happened and then, what it took for you to just keep saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. And you did something and you accomplished it. And he said, well, I'm not stopping there. I'm going to do this other thing. So I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you. What happened is I had a chemical reaction to prescription drugs. And the doctors told my family I was in a chemical coma until it was 2 weeks before I woke up. And when I woke up, I had tubes everywhere. I could blink my eyes and move the pinky. And so, when you're in that situation, it's like I'm kind of in shock. And I'm not aware of much, but I had aspiration pneumonia, so I was aware of the breathing treatments and simple things like I could hear the nurses talk about what they were ordering for lunch, and then I could smell their breath and begging for ice cubes and things. But my miracle started with a visit from Reverend Temple Hayes, my minister at First Unity. And she came in and gave one look and said, what are you doing in this place? Are you ready to get out of here? And I blinked my eyes, and her having that vision and that faith gave me hope.
Absolutely. Yes.
So that was the beginning of the miracle, and it took quite a few years to get the mental to be able to think right and meditate. And But I started out with the physical healing. And I was in the hospital 5 months doing occupational therapy every day. And I was in the VA hospital, and that was a lot of fun to be in there with the other veterans. Like, we had a group we called ourselves the Rat Pack, and we all ate together and looked out for each other. And people came and went, but that camaraderie was very healing.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
So coming home was like walking into a familiar place, but unfamiliar. You know, people's lives had moved on. They had gotten married, they had gotten divorced, they had kids, and I was in survival mode for a while. So I think the thing that kept me from going downhill was I wanted to walk. And I knew if I started drinking again or did anything like that, I wouldn't be able to walk. So walking took a couple years. I still walk with the walker, but I'm pretty independent. I have a helper that helps me with some activities of driving, grocery shopping, stuff like that. My church really held me up. And every time I got discouraged, right at that time, somebody would come up and say, "Oh, you're doing great." And you know, when you're in that process, I couldn't see it, the progress, but other people could see it. And just them acknowledging that made all the difference in the world.
It sounds like you had a great support system. And when I read your story, you talked about all the achievements and the things that, you know, with that support system you were able to do. And, you know, it included snow skiing and water skiing, and I don't think rock climbing was part of it, but you had all kinds of different activities that some people might not consider that they would have the ability to do. But, you know, what was going through your mind as each one of those presented themselves as an opportunity to pursue, and you said, "I'm going to do it"?
I think the first big one was horseback riding. And then I saw a poster at the VA for skiing. And I had been a recreation major in college. And at the time in '83, there was hardly any equipment for that kind of thing. So nowadays, there's equipment for anything you want to do, adaptive equipment. So I signed up to go with the veterans out there. And we have 350 to 400 veterans from around the country. And it was so humbling to watch blind people ski, quadriplegic ski. So there was this drive to get back to the things I used to do.
That's awesome.
That made all the difference in the world.
That's great. That's amazing. So, Sandra, I'm going to come back to you. I want to jump up to Teresa because I feel that she's got a powerful story as well. That you know, eventually every person is going to possibly face the same situation. So, Teresa, I'll let you start with you know, your mother and your relationship with her, and what that led to the miracle in the story that you talk about.
Thank you, Eileen. So my mom and I were best friends. I loved my mother. She was an inspiration. She was never afraid to do anything. If she wanted to go somewhere, my father didn't want to go because he was afraid to fly. She said, well, you can stay here. We'll be back soon. But this story that I wrote in this book is about my mother's passing, and she had gone through cancer for many years. She had lung cancer. The doctors took one lung out, and that in itself was a miracle. I believe that the doctor that did her surgery was an angel, because he said he knew me. And I didn't write about this in the book, but he said he knew me. And I said, well, my sister works in the hospital. I said, maybe you know her. He said, no, I know you. And so I believed him, and I trusted that God had a plan for my mom and for, my dad was alive at the time, and that this doctor was the right doctor. I really felt like he was the right one. And he took care of her for many years, along with her regular physician. And it came to be that she was done with treatment. And I knew she was tired. I could tell by her physical nature, and I could tell by when I was talking to her, she was ready. She was ready for her time to come. And there were a bunch of things that happened. People needed to come and see her, and there were people she had on a list who wanted to see her. And I had made a plan that I was leaving Pennsylvania, where I live. I grew up on Long Island, so she was still living on Long Island. And I made a plan that I was going to go for 3 days and get the hospice all situated and whatnot, and make sure that my siblings were all on board with what was happening. And I was there for the 3 days. And on the second day that I was there, I knew that her time was coming. And I was putting her to bed that night. She had her wits about her. We could have a conversation. And I was putting her to bed on that particular night. And we're talking and we're having a conversation about, whatever, just general conversation. And all of a sudden she's like off. She's looking into the corner of the room, and I'm watching her, and I'm like, Mom. And she's giggling. And I'm like, what the heck? And then I realized what was happening. And I said to her, all right, who's here? And so she named my deceased relatives, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, my father, who had passed a few years before. And I said, what are they doing? And at that moment, she looked me straight in the eye, and she said, they're cooking the pasta for the party. I'm going home. And so, I just basked in that moment. I was literally crying and laughing at the same time with her, because here they are. And I have a friend who has the ability to see into the other realm. And when she was off in that space of like whatever was happening, and I had seen her go from this realm to the next on a couple of occasions, but this really held her attention. And she was just ecstatic that everybody was just waiting for her, and she was going to see them all again. And they were going to sit down to pasta dinner. And that moment took me right back to my childhood, because on Sundays, that's what we did. All of these people who were there, they would come to dinner on Sundays, and my grandmother and my aunt would fight over who was going to make the meal. Two little old Italian women, they were like at each other all the time. No, I'm going to make this. Well, I'm going to make this. And it was just, I went back to that little girl who was having dinner with her relatives. And then after the meal was over, they would clear the table. My uncle would have his friends over, my dad. And my uncle hosted a card game, and we went into the second kitchen. I don't know why they both had two kitchens in their house. And I realized what it was when I was very little, because we would go into the kitchen in the basement, a room that was built in the basement with a sink and a refrigerator and everything you needed in the kitchen. And we would make the pasta for the next week. So we were constantly having, pasta dinner on Sunday. So that took me right back to my childhood when she told me what they were doing. They're cooking the pasta for the party. I'm going home.
That's a great experience to have, and it has me thinking about a question I want to ask in regards to, when you were in that space with her, and she went off and then shared that experience that she was having. Did you feel a shift in the room? Did you feel anything change or alter from your perspective, being, still in the physical, where she was kind of probably 1 foot in the physical and 1 foot in the next life?
Yeah. I felt after she was, I'll say, gone for a few minutes, and in that space and in that being, I realized I did feel a little bit of a shift. And I knew I had been feeling it for the couple of days that I was there. But because as I said, she was in and out. She was between the earthly plane and the heavenly plane. And so, but that's not something that I'm not used to. I've had experiences where, like when my grandmother, my father's mother, passed away, I wasn't home. I was watching my cousin's kids because she was in the hospital for a procedure. And I was there. And as soon as the phone rang, I knew that my grandmother had passed. And it was the most bizarre thing that I smelled roses in my room as she literally passed through me on her way to heaven. And so I've experienced these things before, but to be with my mom as she was going through this, and I could picture them. I could picture my Aunt Rose giving directions to everybody. No, don't do that way. Do this way.
Well, and I'm thinking that you also maybe felt this unconditional love that came into the space.
Yes,
and I'm sure that was very heartwarming for you.
Yeah,
to know that she was going to be okay.
Yeah, and my faith tells me. And she the day before she had said to me, I said, "How are you, Mom?" We're having a conversation. She said, "I'm tired." She said, "But I'm ready to go home. I know where I'm going. But I'm sure going to miss you." And this is another thing she said. I have a sister who's a bit of a problem, and at times, and we weren't getting along. And so she said, "I want you to promise me something." I said, "What is it, Mom?" She said, "Just do your best to keep the family together." And I kind of rolled my eyes, and she knew exactly why I was rolling my eyes, right? So she said to me, "All right." She said, "Teresa, let's make a deal." She said, "You work on it from this side, I'll work on it from the other side." I said, "All right."
So do you think that she's worked on it from the other side?
I think she's done her best, and my sister is a bit of a challenge. But we all have our own ways. We all have our own personalities, and just because we're in the same family doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see things the same way. I was so willing to let my mom go because I knew that it was her time, and she and my other siblings were wanting her to stay and hold on. They weren't coming to the terms with. Mom had made up her mind that she wasn't going to go through any treatment anymore.
Right.
And it was an interesting time in my life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's I think inspiring that your mom could be have those wits about her at the very end, and yet still be in that place of being ready to go, and you being able to witness that with that love. So, Sandra, I'm going to come back to you. I want to know how this experience has changed your perspective of life itself. If it has, have had an impact on that part of who you are.
Yes, it has totally changed my life. Today, I'm grateful for everything, just for being alive. And for the little things, I think in the past, I got embroiled in drama and stuff, and I don't have any room for that in my life today. And it just has given me appreciation for the small things in life that you don't always notice or look at.
So it's almost allowed you to become more present, more aware.
That's a good way of saying it.
Yes. And then because of that, I'm thinking the people around you now through this experience, sounds like you've had a great support system, and your positive outlook on the faith that that Temple Hayes has given you, I think gave you a good platform from which to move forward to where that support you embraced and allowed it to help you to achieve the things you had that many people may not have been able to, only because of their mindset. So do you feel that, your mental state is just as important as anything else?
Right. And it has totally changed before this. I had issues with depression and mental health issues. And since then, it hasn't been an issue at all.
Interesting.
And so it's like a 180.
That's interesting. So do you think that because of this experience, it's allowed you to not sweat the small stuff and to have more gratitude, that kind of gratitude, what I call the gratitude attitude, and see it through a more spiritual perspective versus a physical linear perspective?
Exactly. In the very beginning, I used to, when this happened, there was a freedom that I can't explain. Just being alive. And I used to be very, follow the rules and very dogmatic. And since that happened, it's like, there's just a freedom.
It's almost like you're carefree now.
Yes.
Yes, that's awesome. And I bet that's it gives you more of a sense of peace. And that's the stress of the mental monkey mind and making sure you're doing everything right, and the perfectionism is all gone. And it's almost like having childlike wonder.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It took like 1.5 years before I could concentrate enough to meditate. And that's the first time I cried was in meditation. Before that, it was all about survival and just doing what I needed to do. Yeah.
And you meditate regularly now?
Yeah.
And so do you have a special place you go to when you meditate, as far as in your mind and take yourself, or do you just kind of quiet your mind and let whatever show up?
I try to keep it empty. I find that gives me the most connection and the most peace.
And that's a little different from where you came from before this happened. Well, that's great information, because I think it's a good example of how important it is for our minds to be clear, and that it's gives us a sense of freedom and liberation from that hard rule. Gotta follow, gotta do everything, or else it's not going to work. So sometimes, we go through things in order to teach others. So do you feel that sometimes you're teaching others how to learn and understand what that means?
I do. When people say to me, you're such an inspiration, you could have just given up. And I'm like, how could I give up? That just doesn't even compute. I realize some people do, and so I know where they're coming from, but that idea of giving up just was never there.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So back to you, Teresa. We go through life with thinking about our future and where we're heading. But when we have an experience where we have a parent that's ending their life, it can be a struggle for us to look at our own life and start thinking about, what am I doing with my life from now to then? And then, fortunately, you had a positive experience with your mom's passing. But did it cause you to look at your own life and, the things that you are doing now? Is it because of having had that experience with your mom and looking at your life a little differently now?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now I really do pay attention to who I am, what my gifts are, how I can help others with my gifts, how I can use them to leave a legacy for my son. The different things that I've done. Like although I have always kept a journal for many, many years, I've kept a journal, and I was never really one to, write something to publish or whatever. But then people started asking me to contribute pieces to various, magazines and then the books. And that's why this was such an easy thing for me to share, because I've had a lot of practice in writing. So, and then I realized that I also have other gifts that I can bring to the table. And my mom always showed up as who she was. And so she always gave me the encouragement and the ability to, have confidence in who God created me to be. And so I think her passing, even before that, her bravery. And I have to say, Sandra, you are one brave woman. So I just want to honor you with those words, because a lot of us would shrink and hide and not, and I do that sometimes as well. I can't say that I'm always ready to show up for whatever is before me. And there are times when I just don't want to, or feeling as my friend would say, some kind of way, so, but but unlike, what's the word I want to use? Grieving and loss can do to some people. Like, I know people in my life who have lost loved ones and then just cannot bear being without them. And I think what comes to mind is Debbie Reynolds and what was her name? Princess Leia.
No, who are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about,
Yes,
right?
I know who you're talking about, yes.
One of them passed away, and they were mother and daughter, and they just couldn't be without one another. So the other one left a few days later, or a few weeks later, whatever it was. And I've seen that happen with people, and that was never a thought in my mind. It was almost like I know I have more to do, and I had a good life ahead of me if I chose to live it as a good life. And I think it's always a choice. Unlike some people just can't get over the loss of a loved one. And, some of my family members still struggle with that. And it's, it's interesting to be on both sides of the fence. Like I'm really grounded in my faith, and I just really know that my mom and dad and all the loved ones that have gone before me are happy in heaven. But it made me look inside, like, what is my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Why was this life given to me? I have a gift in my hands to make pottery. And so I've had a couple of come to Jesus moments, trust me. But one of them was, is this all you want me to do with this? Is it just about, I know we're supposed to beautify the planet in one way or another, leave the planet better than it was before we got here. Is it all about making beautiful pieces, pottery, and or is there something else? And there's something else coming. So I do know that this process is really a great metaphor for transformation. Not even a metaphor. It's a story of transformation. And my God is the potter, we are the clay. So I get the opportunity to take that story from the Bible and really bring it into words and bring it into being in terms of the work that I do with my hands. So, and I don't think I would have spent as much time really focused on that had it not been for the experience I had with my mom. I think, she lived her best life, and she wants each one of us to do the same thing, my siblings and myself to do the same thing, and my grandchildren and their grandchildren. I don't have any grandchildren yet. I have a grandpuppy, but that's about it.
Well, I'm sure the grandchildren are coming. It sounds like your mom was a great mentor, and she inspired you in many ways, and you're following in her footsteps as far as honoring your authentic self. And I think that's the same for you, Sandra, that, in spite of the challenge that you found yourself in, you're still honoring, and if not even more now than you did before, who you are, which is courageous and has perseverance and faith in that if we put our mind to something, we can still have a fulfilling life. Because I'm thinking you feel like your life is fulfilled, even though you have these handicaps that people might look at and say, but she has limitations, but you don't see those as limitations, do you?
Not at all. I see them as opportunities to get better and grow.
Yeah, because you also studied. You've gotten some certificates since you have advanced in your healing and your getting better. What are those certificates in?
Well, I studied to become a minister and was ordained on October 15th. So that was a 2-year process and fulfillment of a lifelong dream.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And then you have another certificate, don't you? And like Reiki or some other.
Yes, in a Reiki level 2. So on Wednesdays, we get an opportunity during meditation to go give Reiki to people. So I was able to do that for quite a few years.
That's awesome. I bet that was a great experience to be able to bring that through, even though you have these challenges. And I'm sure that's also helpful for you as well as the facilitator.
Yes.
So, Teresa, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we close this out?
Yes. Honor who you are. Honor who you are able to walk through the days of this life with. If I could do anything differently, I would definitely come to learn more about my siblings and who they actually are, because maybe those relationships could be better. So really honor who you are, honor those around you, get to know people. Conversations, they make a difference. We know what my radio shows, conversations that make a difference. But and I'm huge on conversation. I'm huge on really getting to know other people and giving them the opportunity to share who they are. So I would, and whatever your faith is, whatever you believe, like really embrace it, because one day everybody's going to face this. And I want to share one thing that that's in the book, but I'll paraphrase. At the funeral, my great nephew was about, I want to say maybe 7 at the time. And my niece had 2 other children. And none of them have met my father. None of them had met my father. And actually the last one was born on my mother's birthday. And the thing that broke me up while I was giving the eulogy at the funeral was this little boy who is now in his mid-20s. He said, I know what Grammy is. I know where she is. She is with Poppy, and she's telling him all about us because we never got a chance to meet him. Oh. And that just like busted me up. Like I lost it for a minute. He said that out loud while I was giving the eulogy. Wow. And it was like he had a moment with her that, it felt to me like he actually had that moment with her where she was actually speaking and telling my father about the grandchildren that he never knew. Oh. So make a difference somehow, do your best to be who you are, make a difference in the lives of others. I believe that we all have the opportunity to do that. And whether we know it or not, we do it anyway. So I think that, honor your loved ones, be with them. This is not the end. I don't believe that life on earth is the end. I believe there is more to come. Eternity, and where you want to spend it is entirely up to you. But this story that I wrote is the one that's most near and dear to my heart.
Thank you for sharing that, Teresa. And Sandra, do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share?
I think one of the things I value most now is connection. Connection with other people, connection with the earth, connection with everything that is. And I see myself and other people as one, and to honor that connection.
I love that.
And, to do like Teresa's talking about, to see the other person and let them be their authentic self as well as be my authentic self.
So that seems to be the theme today, authenticity. So thank you, ladies. And where can people find you if they want to connect? Teresa?
On teresavelardi.com. You can actually email me, teresavelardi@gmail.com, and it's TeresaVelardi. And there's always weebybookspublishing.com as well.
Thank you. And Sandra, where can people find you?
I'm at thrivingheartsministry.com, and you can email me at skitt360@hotmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. I really enjoyed hearing your stories and your empowerment to move forward in life beyond and past the challenges that you've had or the experiences you've had. So I look forward to staying in touch and wish you both a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.